Thank you. Oh, I'm going to do this. So thank you, Christine and district leadership, very much for having me. This is very, very exciting. It's not often an Oilers fan gets to come to Flames country. And I'm especially happy that you arranged for such lovely weather here. And we get to show Michelle what winter is still here. So, you know, a little bit of empathy, Michelle. So today we're going to talk about conflict and conflict resolution, but I think before we need to have a conversation about what Rotary is and what our mission and our purpose is. And we are peace builders. And everything that we do in Rotary is a reflection of our personal mission and the reason why we joined Rotary. Service above self. In Canada, 12 million Canadians volunteer 2 billion hours a year for causes. So that obviously shows that we are passionate about things. And there is always the possibility for conflicts to arise when people's passions are engaged. And it's a funny thing, but people are more passionate about what they do with their discretionary time and their discretionary money than they are about some of the things that they engage in as a vocation. Now, we are a vocational organization, so there are a lot of skill sets that we bring to our Rotary clubs, and this is a wonderful thing because it enables us to get some really terrific things done. Now, through my experiences with youth, what I discovered is that there's an opportunity at this moment in time in Rotary that I don't think has existed for maybe decades. Now, I'm an old hippie, but when I was a hippie, we used to just lay down on the grass and hold up signs. We didn't have any skills to bring to the table. But now we have engaged young people, and if you're on social media at all, there is no shortage of causes or passions. And there are some existential threats out there, and kids are very passionate about it. And Rotary is their organization. If they were to all be told about it, it's the perfect organization for them to change the world. We have global reach. We have innumerable talents to bring. We have passion. We have event management, and we have terrific communication. And I tell all the kids that the single greatest predictor of success is your ability, and how rapidly you do this, your ability to learn how to communicate. The faster that you learn how to be a clear communicator, the more success you're going to have in your life. A hand up, not a handout. This is why everybody joined. They're going to make a difference. And there's as many ways and different reasons for people to join as there are Rotarians. But the experience that they have at the club level, like Michelle was talking, like Jeff was talking, determines whether or not they're going to stay. And as leaders of your individual clubs, there used to be a saying in IBM, when IBM was the greatest company that there was, it was called, "If it's to be, it's up to me." And that means no excuses. That means that you take responsibility, and it's even more important in our volunteer activities because people are very sensitive about what they're spending their discretionary time and money on. So, in order to reduce or make sure that there's always going to be conflicts, but to reduce them, we have to start thinking as leaders. And it is very important for you to get to know the reasons and sort of the style of the people that are in your club. There is not just one way to achieve an end. And a good leader is actually inspiring people to carry on. That doesn't mean micromanaging, but what it does mean is very careful and concise communication with clarity about what your expectations are and what your benchmarks for achievement are. Now, inside of Rotary, there are all kinds of resources. Who here is on Rotary.org? MyRotary.org, everybody? Do you use Club Runner here, Neil? Yeah, and everybody knows how to sign on to Club Runner. Has everybody in your club signed on to MyRotary.org? No. Is everybody in your club familiar with Club Runner? Rotary International, this great organization that we're part of, has a spectacular secretariat. And we work really, really hard to make sure that the very best resources, videos, advertising, information, webinars, brand imaging for foundation are at our fingertips. Although I've noticed in Rotary that when someone is asking a question, they either wait for their president to answer, and you will be busy, or they ask someone who did that role 8 years ago. And that is where confusion and message penetration problems lie. So we have the four-way test, which is brilliant. And I'm not sure Paul and friends 114 years ago realized all the things that they were putting in place that were going to serve our organization so well. But, pardon me, the four-way test is a great foundation for the balancing out our decisions. Strategic planning. Is every club put your hand up if your club has a strategic plan. Perfect. Put your hand up if you've looked at your club's policies and bylaws and constitutions this year. And are they up to date? So these are all tremendous tools at your disposal that will also help reduce conflict. Have you shared the Constitution, the bylaws, and the policies with the rest of the team you've put together to help you lead your club next year? Do you further have job descriptions for your district leaders, or not district, your club leaders? Broadly speaking, and then maybe more specific to the things that it is that you want to accomplish in your year. This is very important. We also, has anybody had a look at the Rotary Manual of Procedures? How about the Rotary Code of Policies? Yeah, of course you have, but they're like this. Pretty much any question you could have are answered in those documents. They're available online, myrotary.org. But your First line, of course, is the one and only person that is an RI representative in your district, and that would be your current and your district governor-elect, past district governors. After a couple of years, we're, like Neil, he's done. He's an old fogey. Yes. So just realizing that your way or the highway is not a good strategy going forward in Rotary. Oops. And this is very important. I think, I don't often, I've maybe talked on this once or whatever, but I might be here because I'm, 3 divorces later. So I've learned these lessons the hard way. When people join Rotary, they're looking for a community. And being part of a community means that you're somewhere where you feel like you belong. You feel heard and therefore validated. You feel that you have worth and standing inside the club that you belong to, that you have shared values and vision. And when people feel that way, they stay. They stay. Your friendship, the excellent meetings. Oops. So I've got a couple helpful hints here. It's been my observation that there is this social media phenomenon out there, and that we are maybe more connected than we ever were before. But maybe we aren't being heard the way that we want to be heard. And what's happening is that we now achieve a consensus of opinion faster than we ever did. Like when Neil started out in his career, there were arbitrage opportunities because it took 3 weeks for, events in Africa to make their way over to North America. Now it's instantaneous, and we're told how we need to feel about certain things. So when you are writing email, instead of picking up the phone to call, it's very, very important that you write so that you will not be misunderstood. Anybody here ever made an assumption about what somebody meant when they said something? Right. So this little helpful hint can solve a lot of problems. And it is, I'm going to speak to you, I'm going to say something to you, and you're going to ask me, well, this is what I heard. Is that what you meant? So easy, right? Nobody got up this morning and decided that they were going to ruin your day and let you assume something. So apparently, we speak on average 150 words per minute, but our brain can process 1,000. So what are you doing with the other 850 possibilities? So when someone's talking to you and you're concentrating on the 150 words, you can drift. And are you thinking about what it is that they're saying? Are you listening with intent, or are you listening to reply? Are you hearing everything that they are saying? Attentive listening does a couple of things. It lets people know, if you ask them questions, did you mean that? They know you're actually hearing them. You're paying attention to what it is that they say. Their ideas are taking someone's attention and flight, and that shows respect, and it also makes people feel included. And this was my downfall in all those marriages, I can tell you. So these are just a couple of the things, the concepts, reasons why some people feel like they aren't being heard, that they are misunderstood, that conflict arises. And I can share these with, I can send them to Christine, and she can share them with you if you're interested in these slides. But mostly people do not get up in the morning with the intent of ruining your day. So, and this is how and where conflict goes. And this is where you want to stop it. Right down here, where you find out what it is that the disagreement is about. Identify that before things get away from you. And one of the ways to de-escalate conflict is if you're very clear about your communication and what it is that your expectations are and what people's roles are. If it gets a little bit out of hand and it's escalating, what you need to do very calmly is come back to where you all were in agreement and discuss, put forward the different things that could possibly have gotten things off track. Anybody in this room ever heard about emotional IQ? As a leader, developing that skill will be your most important tool in your toolbox. And if we operate from the basis that everybody is there because they feel like they're a superhero, they want to save the world, they want to contribute to their community, because what you do as a volunteer, you know, you may vote in an election every couple of years and think that that's going to change your life experience. But really, it's where you spend your time and volunteer. That is democracy in action. So the organizations we belong to and having a voice are very important. Two points of view can be right at the same time. And it's very important, even if you're going to take a different tact, that after discussion, you know, you can acknowledge that other people's ideas are valid and viable, but we're going in this direction. And as the leader, learning how to do that as tactfully as possible and building consensus is very, very important skill. When I was district governor, I had there was a bit of a conflict, and we have a council of past district governors. And I was able to go to our council, and there was 20 some members, and ask for advice and get the very best input that I could get. And ultimately I knew it was my decision, but being able to go to people in your club that have influence, asking for their support, explaining your rationale so that you aren't just one person making a case, it's very good. So this is, from the top down, some of the strategies, and there's another slide that'll fill those out a little bit better. So listening with intention, Have any of you ever watched yourselves speak? Like, have you video of speaking? Some people do it really well. I had a partner in life, and I would take him to things, and he would sit over like this. And I would be telling young people, oh, he's so happy to be here. Well, why does he look like an axe murderer? Anyway, so you know, your facial expression, you know, your body language, a lot of information is conveyed by, you know, those sorts of things. Oops. So figuring out what the disagreement and where it happened. And I don't know about you guys, but lots of people don't like confrontation. And if you ask them what it is they're upset about, sometimes they don't tell you the real reason. Yeah. And so you have to ask questions a number of ways to get to the bottom of it. And you want to fact find it in a way that nobody feels like they're threatened or anything like this. Agree on a common goal, figure out how you're going to discuss it in such a way that everybody feels heard. One of the exercises that we do in our youth sessions is someone's got the talking stick. And while you're holding the talking stick, nobody else can interrupt. Determine any barriers, agree on the best way to resolve the conflict, and acknowledge the agreed upon solution, and make sure everyone's on board. Because once you're moving forward, you do not want to hear the naysayers because that undermines where you're going. So this is what Rotary is. This is how we are going to build our Rotary clubs. It is how we make them strong enough to withstand conflict. And it's going to be the key to getting young people involved in our clubs. We have a kind of a hierarchy, and it's slowly going away. But if somebody's 21 and they have joined your Rotary Club, they have to feel that their voice is just as relevant as someone who's been there a very long time. And while we always respect our elders, adopting change, it happens when we hear what other people have to say. Now, when I was making my rounds, this was one of the things that caused conflicts. Put your hand up, and then a few days later, well, maybe I didn't feel like doing that anymore, and it can lead to hard feelings. And we want our Rotary clubs to be vibrant and lively and everything, but not because we're letting people in the club down by not fulfilling our obligations. And keeping this in mind will help. You know, the day before the event, you don't want the committee chair to say, oh, you know. So we all have, to varying degrees of time, energy, and money. And just because someone is not putting in, 40 hours a week on your project, and they only have 2 hours, we have to be just as grateful to every single person for what it is that they are bringing to the success of our projects. We do not want to burn out all of our volunteers, and I don't know, I've seen the odd club in 5370 that might have the step problem, the same 10 people, right? STP. And hard-learned lesson. As the leader of your clubs going forward, be the first person to apologize, even if you don't really think you did anything. It's a humble servant leader that takes responsibility, does not make excuses, does not point fingers at somebody else, and magic happens when you take responsibility and other people realize that you're doing that. They will follow you anywhere because your ego or being afraid to say you're sorry does not get in the way. So those were my lessons for conflict. Thank you for inviting me.